Chapter 6, Pearl of Wisdom number 3. Personality, credibility, trust, and listen up. Moving the sale along. Connecting with people.
Great salespeople can relate to anyone. They can immediately find that common bond with the prospect. They are sincere and can build trust quickly. You see, people don't buy what you are selling until they buy into you first. And it helps to know some things about the person you are going to meet and their industry beforehand, so do some homework. I happen to just be a curious person. I like to know a little bit about everything if I can. I'm a very good channel surfer at home and sometimes drive my wife bonkers because I will stop and gawk all over the place to learn this and that. I just like to learn and make connections. I believe that's why I can relate to people rather quickly. You may spend time with a prospect and only talk business half of the time. The other half, you are feeling each other out. You are trying to connect with this person to show that you are a real, trustworthy person. Maybe you talk about that crazy football game last night. Perhaps you talk about how you both love action films. Find that common, I'm just a regular guy or gal ground. And that old adage about avoiding politics and religion in conversation still holds true, at least until you really get to know your client. The end game is not so much to be loved as it is to make the sale. A good personality helps move things along to that end. And no matter what, if you say you're going to do something, make sure you do it. You are only as good as your word. That's credibility. A great example of building credibility. I have a client who owns a wonderful bookstore. Years ago, a person called to inquire about a certain book. Well, my client looked it up and found that he did not have that title at that moment. He did notice, however, that a competing bookstore one town over did have the book. He shared that information with the person on the phone, and they were shocked. They couldn't believe he would send them to a competitor. My client felt it was in the person's best interest to get the book that they wanted right away. 2 weeks later, that same person came into my client's bookstore and said he was the person that was sent to a competitor. He was impressed that his best interest was looked out for. This person went on to become a very good customer, all because of my client's honesty and credibility.
The power of listening.
Listen up. Good listening skills are super duper important. People like to talk and like to talk about themselves. Be a good listener. Soak it all in. This builds trust and you can access a ton about someone just by listening. It's like if you went to a party and were introduced to someone. That someone goes on and on about this and that and you don't get a word in edgewise. You'll walk away and that chatterbox that you were talking to, or at least listening to, will say to their husband or wife, "Oh, that's so-and-so, what a nice person." That's funny because you didn't get a word in at all, but you let them ramble on and on. But you were a good listener, and now to them, you are a great person. Being a good listener is like being a top-notch detective. You will take in a great deal of information with being a good listener. Clues like what type of personality they have, their likes and dislikes, even how they may want to be sold to. Use your listening skills as a strength. I always remind myself that I am in the persuasion business and I am a problem solver. I love what I do. I love what I sell. When connecting with someone I am trying to sell to, I let them know that I am a straight shooter. My cards are face up on the table and I have nothing to hide. I am there because I believe in what I am selling and I think that it will benefit them. And it is my job to move the sale along to its foregone conclusion. Ask yourself if you are capable of building a sense of urgency for what you sell. I try to build AIDA. Get their A, attention, build I, interest, followed by a D, desire, so that they take A, action. Basically, it's please help me help you, Mr. or Mrs. Potential Client. One of the great things Roy H. Williams, the Wizard of Ads, preaches is, win their hearts and their minds will follow. Here's a radio station's call letters to remember. WIIFM, or What's in it for me? That's what your prospect will always want to know, and you're there to tell them.
Personalities.
I love studying the 4 basic personality types people have. Type A driver, amiable, expressive, and analytical. There has been much written on these 4 personalities. Mastering the many nuances of each one will give you a major edge. I can usually tell a person's personality type within the first 60 seconds of meeting with them. I access this information visually and by what I hear. What they look like, what their office or business environment looks like, their body language, and how they talk, what they say. For me, it really is almost instinctive. If you can pick up on their personality traits quickly, it will help your presentation and help you ultimately close the deal. My explanation of each is as follows. 1. Type A driver. The know-it-all. They invented the wheel. You can do a great proposal and they take credit for it. You wouldn't have been able to do such a good job unless I asked you to put it together, they'd say. They take credit for a lot of things, but hey, that's okay, because you know that you need to do business with all walks of life. Get the deal done. To the Type A, everything is black and white, as in, yeah, I don't need to see the data, just tell me what it's going to cost me. They may not be the best listeners and possess little patience. They make quick decisions. They have no problem wanting to know right off the bat what's in it for me. These guys are not the easiest to talk to and take skill to sell to. It's worth it though, because once you sell to a Type A, you often have a client for life. After all, they made the decision to buy from you, so therefore it had to be the right thing to do. With the Type A, it's not about relationships, it's about results. Remember to check your ego at the door when you call on these guys. That's okay, because it's the sale that is the most important thing. 2. The amiable. These folks are easygoing, open to ideas, likable, and you can bond with them very quickly. Emotion is the big thing with the amiable. They want to take the time to get to know you and what you do before culminating a deal. They like to find out things you may have in common with them, and this makes them great listeners. They feel comfortable with all that connecting with one another and are usually the easiest to talk to. They'll often do business with you because you seem like a trustworthy person who is selling something they need. Why not give it a shot? 3. The expressive. I like to say these folks are like amiables on speed, flying by the seat of their pants. They are perfect candidates for Ritalin because they can't sit still. They are excited, by golly. They are full of ideas but are constantly on the go. You've seen the expressive personality. He's the guy at the party with the lampshade on his head like John Belushi in Animal House. Organizational skills aren't their forte. They're usually funny, quick on their feet, and prone to exaggeration. They are not big on details, but rather love to look at the big picture. They make quick decisions that are usually made on gut, going with their gut feelings, and emotion, their heart. 4. The analytical. Details are very important to an analytical. They like to look everything over thoroughly before they make a buying decision. They love to get all of the facts and details. All of the T's must be crossed and the I's dotted. If you did a good proposal, by golly, they're going to want to review it with a fine-tooth comb. They make decisions based on logic, their mind. They can be known to be methodical, and it may take a few visits before you win them over because they have to be convinced. After all, they have to live with the choices they make, and it would cause them angst if they felt they made the wrong decision. They are happy once they make a final decision on something because they have analyzed everything very thoroughly. Sometimes it can get a little tricky because although most people are dominant in one particular personality trait, they may also have traces of the other personalities as well. I consider myself, for instance, to be an amiable analytical. I like to say I get along with people and like to analyze things. You know, look at everything and make connections.
What you say and what you do.
People pay attention to how you speak and the words you choose. They also like people who sound confident. When you exude confidence, people are more apt to do business with you. Also, people basically like to buy, for it empowers them. It helps when they buy from a trustworthy, confident person. Body language, the tone of your voice, eye contact, the way you shake someone's hand, how you sit, a nod here, a smile there, are all more clues that tell a story about someone. While you are trying to gauge them, they are gauging you. Reverse the roles and think of how you would want to be sold to. The eyes tell the story. I believe you can look someone directly in the eyes and see if they are telling the truth and truly believe in what they are saying. Speaking of eye contact, here's a passage from Bob Thomas's 1976 book, Walt Disney, an American Original, a favorite of mine, I might add, as an example of this last thought. It regards a remark by Walt's brother Roy discussing his brother Walt. He had an eye that would grab yours when he was telling you something, and if you would waver and look around, he'd say, "What's the matter? Aren't you interested?" Oh, and he wouldn't let go of your eyes. He was so intent on everything you did, and this was his way of looking into you. You couldn't lie to him and say you liked it if you didn't. It would show right in your eyes. When you are with a prospect, you can sometimes be a chameleon or mirror them. This means you act like them slightly so as to make them comfortable, as though you are like them and have a lot in common. For example, if they are prim and proper and serious, you act the same. If they are laid back, you act laid back. This may make them feel like you are one of the guys. Just don't make it blatantly obvious. Whenever I am on an appointment, I always assume I'm going to get the business and close the deal. We call this the assumptive close. It involves a certain mindset wherein I am so confident in my abilities that I believe I will close the deal. I've done it before and I will do it again. I've played it out in my mind and draw from previous successes. It's all about mindset, the frame of mind you are in. Picture driving to work in the morning the day after a snowstorm. During your 30-minute commute to the office, you notice how beautiful all of the trees look with the ice on them glistening so. Very much like a winter wonderland from a Perry Como Christmas special. You have that feeling again as though you were a kid and are amazed at what you are witnessing. You are in a positive frame of mind. Now picture the same commute, only this time you had a flat tire on the way to the office, your kid is failing geography, and you had a little argument with your spouse over something silly. So on the way to work, you don't even notice how beautiful the trees look. What trees? You didn't even notice them because you were in an unproductive place in your mind. Life is all about what frame of mind you are in. This carries into your workday and affects your results. I have a client who once told me an interesting story. He owns a diner, and one of his waitresses, who is wonderful at her job and is like family to him, came into work one day with a huge chip on her shoulder. She shared her non-cheeriness this particular day with the customers. She didn't say anything negative to them, but was indifferent and in an obvious foul mood. It seemed like she had a "I don't care" attitude and was a little ornery. Once the owner picked up on this, he asked if he could speak with her in private. She is his top waitress, one who most everyone adores and who works very hard. Isn't it true how the best waiters, waitresses, and bartenders are really good salespeople? He let her have it. He said to her in no uncertain terms that our customers don't want to be waited on by a negative person. They want to have a good meal at a good price and expect the service to be pleasant. It's all a reflection on me and my diner. Now you know I care about you and respect you, but I want you to go back out there and smile. I want the same cheery person I see every day to go in there and make our customers happy. If there's something on your mind, perhaps something at home, I would be more than happy to discuss things with you on your lunch break. I do care. But when you're on the clock, you have to act and look professional. Besides, you make most of your living on tips, and the nicer you are, the more you will make. She understood this, went back out, and had a great rest of the day. He was true to his word and had a long discussion with her about some trouble she was having on the home front. He may be her boss, but he's also a friend and a human being. He made some suggestions and made her feel better because he lent an ear.
Intestinal fortitude.
Whenever I am dealing with someone I hope to do business with, I always have my game face on. What I mean by that is that they will only see an upbeat person when I'm dealing with them. If I'm having a bad day, they won't know it. They don't want to hear someone's negative stories anyway. If I have a stomach ache, they won't know it. I do my best to shelter things for the good of the sale and always put my game face on. I remember a few years back having the headache from hell. I felt very nauseous at the time, but had to go on a very important appointment, one in which if I closed the deal would be a great account to have. I had been working on building up to this day, and now I'm ready to go in there and chat, but my head's gonna split in two. Guess what? I mustered everything I could to put my game face on, went in there for 90 minutes and closed the deal. I then promptly went back to my car and threw... You get the point. I'm not saying to always do something that's very important when you're under the weather. I'm just trying to say that you have to have your game face on at all times. By the way, they never once knew that I felt like crud.
Negotiating and win-win.
I believe in the win-win philosophy. That means that both sides walk away from a deal or a sale feeling good. One hasn't taken advantage of the other. It's really the most ethical way to do business in my book, and will set the foundation for a long-term relationship. You never want to have someone think they got the short end of the stick afterwards. It could come back to haunt you. Never pull the wool over someone's eyes. People are too smart for that, and it's wrong. Read everything you can about negotiating. It's super important, not just in sales, but in everyday life as well. We may negotiate in business, but we also negotiate with our family, our friends, and everyone we know. 6-year-old.
Mom, can I have some cookies?
Mom.
Not until you clean your room.
17-year-old.
Hey, Dad, can I take the car out tonight to take Cindy to the movies?
Dad.
If you promise me you have your term paper finished, you've got a deal.
Worker 1.
Hey, Harry, did you finish those TPS reports yet?
Worker 2.
Oh, yeah. I'll have them done in an hour. That is to say, if you promise to cover for me this afternoon as I hit the T's at 4:30, my good man.
Mom.
Johnny, you can clean your room now, or would you rather do it after dinner before your TV shows come on?
You get the idea. Negotiating is a little give and take. Powerful negotiating skills go a long way in a sales career. I implore you to read up on them, study them, practice them. Become a top-notch negotiator like the negotiator king, Roger Dawson, The Secrets of Power Negotiating. Remember never to give away something that isn't asked for or valued.
Information is your friend.
When I'm actually on an appointment, I always do a needs analysis or database. This involves a series of well-thought-out questions that I will ask the prospect, which will help me assess their situation and learn more about them. What their goals and objectives are, where they see themselves a year from now, 5 years from now, how they compete in the marketplace. Are there any misconceptions about their business? How do they market themselves, if at all? What are some positive stories about their business they can share with me? What do they want to accomplish? How do they measure success? All of this information helps me learn more about them, sell to them properly, and service them down the road if it involves a continuous business relationship. I also take good, thorough notes on everything, like when I visited with someone, what their partner's names are, their secretary's name, what their place of business looks like. I want to know everything about them so when I come calling on them again, I am prepared to impress. While a prospect is telling me important information about their business, I may not make perfect eye contact on account of I will be taking notes. I tell them I wouldn't want to miss any of their brilliance. When I sell, I like to talk about the features and benefits of radio and my station, rather than mudslinging the competition, other radio stations, the newspaper, the Yellow Pages, etc. Like in politics, you can mudsling or you can talk about the issues and what you plan on doing to improve things. If they have questions for me about competitive media, fine, I'll answer them, but I hardly ever get into competitive media when I do my job. I really just focus on who we are and what we can do for them.
Everyone has certain hot spots.
Look for buying signals. They sneak up on you and you've got to recognize them. It could be a certain nod they give, a phrase they say, the way their eyes light up after you say something they like. You never want to talk too much, especially after it appears they were ready to buy. Talk about blowing it. When they say to you, "So when can we start?" you don't want to follow that up with, "But wait, I just want to tell you about these last 2 features."
A most powerful word.
I want to close this fun chapter out by pointing out to you the most powerful word in sales. Ask. Ask for the business. Ask them to move forward. Ask them to buy from you. Just ask. They always say a goalie's best friends are his goalposts. Well, sales folks have a best friend too, and it's the word ask. Hey, what's the worst thing that could happen? Maybe they say no. You know what? With practice, you may find you can turn a no into a yes. Here's a way to make a ton of money. Next time you're at a flea market or yard sale, ask if they can do better, or ask if they will take a little bit less than what they are asking for. Amazing things can happen. Try it when you buy a high-ticket item. Ask them if they can do better. Your asking, negotiating in this case, will save you many dollars. Most people are afraid to ask because of rejection. They see the word sale on an item and they think that's enough, and it's their lucky day. You'll be surprised how often someone will say, okay, when you ask them to do a little better on a price, and you'll have just saved $2, $5, $20, or even $100 on more just by asking. In sales, never be afraid to ask. It's central to your success.